All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. So a number of issues that played out still unfolding as we speak, but we've got two gentlemen, as you may have seen in that welcoming slide this morning. Dr. Oke Ikechukwu here with us. He is the Executive Director, Development Specs Academy, and then we also do have Sani Umar, who is the spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to meet Chamberlain for the first time on national television. And Makinde.
All right.
I probably should suffer a surcharge for meeting him very often instead.
But you know, speaking about this Economic Advisory Council, replacing the EMT, Dr. Ikechukwu, many did ask, look, if it's not broken, if it's not broken, why fix it?
But it's broken.
Okay, how so?
Have we had a good economy in the last 4.5 years? The answer is no. Absolute no. So if you're looking for an indictment of any team, if there is one managing it, we are living with it. All the indices are super negative, so let's not deceive ourselves.
Even though we also have seen the growth in the non-oil sector, is that also a negative? Is the same economic management?
It's not a negative. If somebody is in a coma and then one finger begins to move, you can't say he's totally immobile, but he hasn't recovered. He's not about to go and have a bath or go watch a film. That's the kind of point. So the question of if it's not broken, why fix it? That may not be a fair perspective on the matter. It is broken. We are broken as a people. The economy, I mean, you're running an economy where the position of the CBN governor then, the finance minister then disagreed, I think, with the Minister of National Planning, Edosho and Udoma, on whether we were in a recession. So, but strictly speaking, no.
But we still exited recession, that notwithstanding.
The point being, the point to make is that if you look at the number of persons selected and their background and profile, two things, in my view, are on the positive side. One, they are persons of relevant and profound experience, and who have also tried their hands on managing one aspect of the economy or the other. They may have done well or they may not have done well, but the point is this. Even while the period they're out of office, they might have also had time to reassess a lot of things, to watch this government and the blunders, if you ask me, in economic terms. And so they're also not members of the ruling party. In terms of, okay, this is patronage, he has gone to call up his friends.
But was the EMT, were they members of the ruling party?
No. The point being made now is that if I do for me, a comparative evaluation of the composition would make me inclined towards the new team. Yeah.
Okay.
A former CBN governor, a former head of national planning, the entire team. The issue, of course, I don't know how their first meeting will go, whether they can work together, whether they can agree on it. Rwanda is always telling us about what to do. Now he has a chance to give it a shot.
Okay, we'll come to that. Hopefully that's to progress. But, Mr. Ma, what do you think? I mean, changes have been made. You think it was very important that we also make that change at the time?
Yeah, I think what the president has done for the first time, I will say I'm very impressed with the caliber of people he has assembled in the economic advisory team. He has assembled people who naturally are experts in their chosen field of endeavor. One thing you cannot take away is that one of the people who actually even wrote the economic policy of the APC is now the chairman, Doyen Salami. He wrote the economic blueprint of the APC since their inception. However, he has never been given the opportunity to be part and parcel of the implementation of that economic policy. Now, he is part and parcel of the implementation of the economic policy because he will also monitor, since he will be having a chance to meet with the president from time to time, and they will be able to rub minds, and the president will direct that such decisions they have taken should be implemented. My only worry and concern is that the team, perhaps they just mentioned those who are from the outside. They are supposed to mention also those who are from the inside. For instance, we are supposed to know whether the Minister of Finance will be part of the team, because they are also part of the implementation team. These people will only advise. Those who will implement should also be part of the decision. Then, of course, the governor of the central bank. they should also be part and parcel of this committee, so that the president should not be saddled with the responsibility of conveying the decisions of this committee to their respective ministries and parastatals that ought to implement these things.
Okay, Dr. Kichuku, it's Economic Advisory Council, not management team, so they just advise. Does that pose any problem for you?
No, not in principle. Well, the other thing following from the point is made. Yes, the person they made the chairman drafted the APC blueprint, which in my view, I don't know whether it exists and whether it's functional. But Soludo, if you recall, was very involved in the seats document also. And between them, Rwanda has been the sniper out in the open. Now, I think it's time we'll come to some kind of measure of perspectives on national development. I hope the team will take us from what we've been seeing, which is regime plans, to national development plans once again. We had seats document. Then Yaradua came. He was still PDP. But what we got was, what was it called? 7-point agenda. And in place from 7-point agenda, the same government, the same presidency actually, you have transformation agenda. It's been a long time we spoke about national development plans. And if this is going to lead to it, I think that's good.
Does the membership of Dr. Mohammed Salisu, what does that bring to bear? You spoke about development. He's of the development policy from the federal government, so he's going to also bring his wealth of experience.
Perspective. Because when you come up with a policy, let's suppose you come with a policy on agriculture, and you think that we need, just in principle or for the hypothetical purposes, that we should have all river basins redeveloped, and you draft all the fine arguments, and somebody with a development perspective takes a multidimensional look at it. If you do an environmental impact assessment, you'll discover that if you're going to have more dams on a certain river, you're going to have less water downstream. So local economies that depend on water downstream will disappear, etc., etc. And so you say, no, it won't be holistic. Now, that also presents a broader policy, if you like, background or backdrop to the interventions of the pure economists who may be talking about the things on paper. If we do this, this is what's going to happen. With this policy, this will be the impact on employment. Somebody, if his background in development is wide enough, would also incorporate elements of the human capital development aspect of national development. You do all of this. I mean, the nation, for instance, has been doing quite a bit on entrepreneurship and youth empowerment. And the question I always ask, when will the federal government enable the National Orientation Agency do its job by always providing a budget for it for every entrepreneurship or empowerment program? Because you want them to be citizens, not just people who earn money. And so those are the elements to take together. So the secretary will add some value. And I think the best thing would be probably for them to have a few days of retreat, sound each other out, exhaust their quarrel there, because you can't come as advising country and it will be before the president you're saying, no, I don't agree with your theory. It will also be a clash between the Bretton Woods institutions and those who have the same perspective, but it is a good development.
Hypothetically, they take that retreat that you just talked about now. What would you want them to focus on primarily? Now, the president has promised that part of the plan of the federal government is to work out a plan that would help the nation take 100 million people out of poverty over the next 10 years. Average 10 million per year. What would you expect this committee to advise, to focus on, to be able to achieve?
Now, if they have a retreat, they should first of all do a C-trap. You know, the army will call it tricky. Do a terrain analysis. The Nigerian states today and the economy we're hoping to manage, what are the indices we should deal with? Human capital development, alternatives to oil, wealth distribution, and the rest of it. And you begin to then take them one at a time. That means that they should first agree on national development, not just infrastructural interventions. If that's a broad perspective, you must then, in thinking of tiring a road, think of its impact on the contiguous communities, its impact on the economy of the next state and the rest of it. Not tell us that you start 2,000 roads. There's more of a public relations leaning in government activities and communication than impact on citizen welfare. That's why somebody will tell you that inflation has declined, is now 1 digit, in all the usual grammar you hear on TV. which is fraudulent analysis, because I always say your cousins and my cousins are relations here in Abuja, all over the country. They are spending more on everything. Disposable income is declining. So that team should meet with a realistic perspective. They should also take a proper index of the national demographics. You know, we're told that we have to have 10 million or 12 million children out of school, whereas the actual number is over 40 million, even by our own national census.
The Minister of Education, while he was being screened, I think he spoke about 16 million or thereabout.
And where did he get it from? It was said to be 10 years, and that figure remained repeated for 11 years, and it was always coming from the development partners. 2006, there was a school census when Obi was minister. Now, the school census gave the number of students in school all over the country. Now, we took it and then compared it with the national census, 2005 figures. The actual number that should be in secondary school by those census figures, and you talked about before, should have been 33.9 million, but the number in school was 6.4. At the secondary level again. At the primary level, 43 point something. The number in school, 22 point something. Just those two alone, what do you have? And as I always say, how many children are out of school in Kano State alone? So these guys need the right indices in order to, but the focus
do we have those right indices?
Sorry?
Do we have them? Because I know you spoke about data the last time out. Do we have the right indices with which they can plan?
We do.
We do?
We do. Access it. You have, okay, you're told 16 million children out of school, right? And then you have...
Which you say is about 40.
Yes, you have a record of all the students in Nigeria.
Discrepancies there already.
There is discrepancy, so they work with a realistic figure. Not the one you hear from UNDP and UNICEF, who never go anywhere. You know, 9 million children have polio in Nigeria. We are making inroads into Nasarawa. These are speeches you need for reports.
Well, Mr. Moore, you know, those who also ask questions concerned, they think, look, well, yes, the president is still the Minister of Petroleum Resources, and they asked if they're going to be reporting to him, is it taking up much more to himself, or couldn't this council have still been reporting to the VP?
Well, naturally, in the villa, the VP is more or less the lead economic advisor to the president. And of course, that is what even the Constitution really gave to him. But be as it may, the president, being a Minister of Petroleum, is merely semantic. It is not in actual sense that he is the minister. He supervises the day-to-day running of that ministry and so forth and so on. It is because he wants to put his eagle eye on that ministry, because it is a ministry that, you know, corruption thrives much more than any other ministry, because it is the lifeline of the government. So the president puts his eye on it so as to ensure that things go well. However, I'm sure even during his first tenure, Ibekachuku was naturally in charge of the ministry. And so he was given the necessary advice, even though at a point in time he complained of being marginalized to see the president and so forth and so on. Nevertheless, the president was merely in you know...
But with this one, according to what the published statement there, this EAC, they'll have monthly meetings with the president, quarterly meetings as well, and then the chairman can request for, you know, separate meetings if need be.
Of course, extraordinary meetings. What I'm trying to tell you is that meetings alone are not the major constraint. First, the understanding of what these people are saying is are they going to relate very well with the president when these people are talking economics? And when they are telling him what to do and how to do it, now, will the president be able to assimilate well what these people are saying? So this is because national progress and national development depends on the outcome of these meetings and these decisions that are going to be taken. Now, if these things are taken and then they begin to work, and they work well, of course, we will see improvement in our economy. However, if they fail, then we have a problem. Because then it will be more or less, we have gathered people who are experts in theory, but nothing will happen in the practical, just as my friend is saying.
Okay, let's get down to Lagos. Kaide has got some questions for you guys. Kaide.
Well, that's right. And this is for Dr. Oke Ikechukwu. Now, whatever advice or policy this new board will introduce will largely be influenced by the budget. And if you've taken a look at the 2020 budget, you'll see that between servicing the country's foreign and local debt, which runs into about 17 trillion, paying salaries and other running costs, it doesn't give room for major long-term planning and what have you. So don't you think this 2020 budget proposal, as we have it now, might pose a major challenge to this advisory board?
It will actually. First of all, the board has to evaluate the judgment and the budget and give informed opinion about whether it can drive growth, whether it can lead to increased productivity, whether it will impact on the value of the naira, because businesses are crashing, not just because largely because replacement cost keeps declining because of the value of the currency. Now, if you look at the ratio of the budget that goes into debt servicing, both internal and external, like you said, it will tell you we're not going anywhere. We are working on, I think, how many? I think 11 trillion, and our expected income is about 7 and all that. Now, taking it holistically, recall your colleague had earlier asked the question about what indeed should these people discuss if they are meeting for the first time. I think they need to do an evaluation of the state of the national economy. They need to look at the intended budget objectives of the 2019-20 budget, and then whether I can achieve it. In fact, the group should be able to advise the president, preferably with principal actors like Finance Ministry, National Planner, and the rest of them in place, on whatever needs to be retweaked. Officers, the National Assembly should also, where necessary, be part of this conversation, because the only reason they all exist as arms of government is for good governance. So it's not a question of finishing and telling them this is what we've discussed. It's about working as a team. So I see grave challenges with the current budget. And when the bulk of a national budget is on debt servicing, when the bulk of it is on consumption, what is left for growth? What is left for development? And the fear is that even with this team, except they do something very dramatic and very boldly, we may end up actually not getting out of the woods. We may have got the right people. They will have given us the right advice, but the circumstances would be such that nobody can do anything with that advice. That's what we pray to avoid. That's what we don't want to happen, because the clash of theories, you can't take it too far. And the concern expressed by your colleague here about assimilation, by my colleague here about assimilation, is a major issue. It's not enough that your expert advisors, you talk to the president. If he doesn't understand what you're saying, you're on your own. And the need to make sure no gap exists between emergence of policy and implementable actions. And please, please, and please again, for every suggestion they have, they should write in specific details the implementation strategies. We want an improvement in so and so. Step 1, sir, do this. Step 2, and the steps should be seen to follow from each other. People say that we have a lot of policies, but the problem is implementation. We have a lot of statements of good intentions. Policies are followed by execution plans. There are usually no execution plans. That's why there is no implementation. So let there be execution plans attached to each of them, so that people don't come around, make speeches, and go away and think they've contributed to national development. No. It's about specific actions that will lead to specific results. Then that allows you measurable outcomes. And we need to know the measurable outcome from this advisory team. Do they have a supervisory role? The answer is no. So the fact of their existence does not, in fact, necessarily translate into a major gain.
Gentlemen, let me bring this up, because when you speak about some of the areas that they need to work on in terms of deliverables, the projections of the ERGP, they did target, I think, 4.5% growth rate in first quarter of 2019 this year.
Yes.
So, but in the first quarter, I understand that's about it's actually less.
Yeah.
So, and then they say, look, if we don't have significant growth in 3 quarters, significantly, it means that the ERGP will be well off its mark.
Yes.
So, can we use that as a yardstick to say, look, this advisory council, this is a target that you have to meet. partly?
No, they should first of all give the president an evaluation of the ERGP. Sir, we've seen the template you're working with. This is what we think. You may need to retweak this part, and this is the reason why we think you should do so. That would be a good way to go. And then, so with that, you have a basis for engagement. And the ERGP, if you look at, there are a few things that ought to be modified for our own good there. The projection, is it the ideal? Not necessarily.
4.5%
Yes.
GDP
Yes.
growth rate in 2019, not ideal?
No, if you look at the things that are to lead to it, you know we can record growth. And there's neither development nor improvement in
It has to be
citizenship
inclusive growth.
Precisely. So that's the worry. And that's why I think the committee should focus and let the president be aware that the whole point of policy, the whole point of economics is the welfare of the people. So that we don't keep producing the figures. We've recorded 10% growth, and growth you measure by indices that poverty will be everywhere, but you're recording growth by the things you're measuring. Just like you come to Abuja, you check per capita income, you find that per capita income is probably, just hypothetically, 10 million per person. That means if you take the population of Abuja, you take the volume of money moving around, everybody in Abuja lives on 10 million a month. That's per capita income analysis, and people are clapping. You now do actual evaluation. The bulk of that money resides with 23 people. The actual average living wage of everybody is about 9,000 naira. So that's what we have to avoid with this team at the level of national economy.
Can political considerations hinder this committee?
Certainly. I know that the president is very eager to deliver on his mandate. And one of these things is to form such type of committee, because the previous condemnation by our political party, is that the president does not even have an economic advisor. However, he appointed an economic advisor who is not even visible.
But so now you have a council.
Now he has a council. So at least we are now very confident that the president has now gotten the message that the economy of the country is more important than all other things, the shadow things he has been pursuing.
So
because the insecurity and the corruption are all as a result of bad economy. So political considerations will definitely hinder it if the president is working towards a political goal rather than improving the lives of the people. If it is because he has assembled these people so that among them all sectors of Nigeria will believe that we have been carried along, or that the idea is for people to see that I'm going to work, and then the work is no longer going, then of course that is a political consideration. So when the economy is not functioning, the president is afraid that he will be blamed. He will say, no, but I have a very good economic team, and they are advising me. So I don't know where the thing is going on wrong.
He has an option to take the advice.
We need to take a break now.
Because, all right, we'll come back to this, but don't forget, KPIs for ministers.
Okay.
What is with that one?
Okay.
Join us after the break. Welcome back to Sunrise 80. Well, okay, let's let you talk about that a little bit more. I'm not sure you concluded your thoughts about the political consideration about this one, but maybe I should bring in Dr. Ikechukwu in this matter. Do you share the same view that it could be an impediment?
Yeah, it could be a major impediment for a simple reason. Now they've been appointed. For some people, that's already an encroachment. So there's a question of territorial relevance.
For some people, political people or professionals?
Political and even professional. Yes, you get an appointment, somebody is just there watching out in order to tell a guy you're not doing it well. But the major worry is the political, because don't forget that there's a lot of patronage in the system. And that patronage sometimes is due to policy leaks within policy formulations and implementation. Now, you've got people who, even by their very profile, will be generally frightening to the average politician. These people are likely to be antiseptic, They won't understand that the boys need to be happy. They are so interested in.
Is that what happens?
No,
I don't remember talking about.
But he's a politician.
No, I'll come
I
to it.
said the average politician. If you're saying
Is
he's
he not
average,
average?
I'm
He's a
not aware of
politician.
that.
On this matter, he's on his own.
Now, by saying I'm on my own, I refuse to go into what you're now confirming. That will be an issue.
Okay.
Because you have their profile provides a very professional ambience, and they are process people, and they are the kind of people who will actually not be happy if a meeting doesn't hold on time and all of that. And these are the easiest people to set up. You make sure they're slightly frustrated and slightly disorganized, and over time you tender evidence that they are not performing so much, and everybody begins to get a sense that they are slightly dispensable, and life goes on. So they need to also, there has to be somebody in the team, and I think the chairman will play the role of navigating a network of comfort that will give them both access and relevance on a regular basis.
Mr. Omar.
Yes.
Could this be, this political, influence, could it be one of the reasons a number of people say that political appointees are not able to deliver on their mandate?
No, certainly not. Political appointees are much more eager to deliver on their mandates because they want to go back to the constituents. They are very mindful of their promises. However, certain impediments that come into play is whether an appointee is competent enough to be given that position and whether he will get the needed cooperation by the people that he's going to work under. Most times, working with the civil servants, the political appointee is encumbered. It's encumbered by the fact that the civil servants are always trying to rubbish what the political appointee is doing because they believe that whoever comes does not know his left or right unless they give you direction. And once you refuse to take that direction, then there's a conflict. And that conflict results into failure.
Confirming the same thing.
All right. Let's get to Lagos. We've got someone else on the line to also weigh in on this matter. Kaide.
Well, that's right. We have Mr. Kola Ayeye. He is an economist and the CEO of GDL Assets Management. He joins us via Skype from Manchester in the UK. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Kayode.
Now, well, I'd like to first, there's been a lot of commendation, to the president for this initiative. People are saying, oh, it was good that you brought up this Economic Advisory Council, and they're saying it is the right step in the right direction. But for you, do you see any challenge or challenges, as the case may be, for them in the coming days?
Clearly the country has been going through a difficult economic time. And if the job of a council is to chart a course that will transform the economy and improve the quality of lives of people, clearly they have their job cut out for them, and it's a very big challenge.
As it is now, if you were to set goals for them, short-term goals, medium-term goals, we're not sure how long this will be for. What would be the goals, short-term, medium-term goals you will be setting for this council?
Okay, first of all, from 1986, when we set out on the structural adjustment program course, we have not veered from it fundamentally, and the quality of lives of people has not improved. So the economy, number one, needs a comprehensive reset. I respect the members of the team. My challenge is that I think they are sold to the same Washington Collective, IMF, World Bank type of policies. And we need to think outside the box and have a major reset. That's number one. The areas of reset, number one is, in terms of corruption, it is impossible for the country to progress with the level of corruption that we have. Fighting corruption needs a totally different new strategy that is economic-led, and that is based on seeking the understanding and the buy-in of the people to see that our transformation depends on our fighting corruption. That is very important. Botswana, a country that was much poorer than us when they became independent in 1966, today has a GDP per capita of over $8,000. It's a middle-income country compared to Nigeria. The only thing that stands Botswana out is that they're the most transparent country in Africa. We need to make the average man, the imam, the preacher, the man on the street and the worker to see that corruption will kill us, i.e., my well-being is tied to it. That's one. The second is we need to find massive capital, not by borrowing. They need to answer the major question. Over a 4-year period, how can Nigeria find $250 billion of investment? And that requires new thinking. Number one, we need to sell the oil sector to the private sector. We need to find people who will buy our participation in the oil sector JVs. We need to do such drastic things. The second thing is the diaspora contributes more capital than what we make from the oil sector currently. We need to create frameworks for attracting major capital from the diaspora resource of Nigeria. It's one of the greatest assets we have now, and there needs to be deliberate government policy to drive it. The next thing is that social policy must be at the center of economic policy. We must think of how to make the lives of people better. And in two areas, we must restore the quality of education to the pre-1986 standard. It should not be necessary for Nigerians to spend huge amounts of money to send their wards abroad for university education and even pre-university education. And we must transform our health to the same standard where UCH was a Commonwealth global leader. Social policy must be crucial. The next one is the tax reform. Our tax system is wrong-headed. You have three units that spend money in the economy: government, household, and the private sector companies. The government is the weakest and the least efficient in terms of spending. When you have that kind of situation, what you look for is how to put money in the hands of the more efficient spenders, the corporations and the households. This tax policy that thinks that the only way that taxes should be managed is to collect more and more from the people in the context of our inefficient government is wrong-headed. Let me give you one example. If instead of having the education trust fund, what people who contribute education tax were asked to do was to spend the same amount of money directly in transforming schools, and government then audits it. From when we started, the private sector who are paying the taxes will have used those same funds to transform our education system. But we aggregate it and put it in the hands of an ETF, for which we've seen very minimal progress. Our tax policy needs to be redirected. Before you increase VAT, let us see how we improve efficiency of spending. And that can happen in the short run.
Okay,
we should instead look for how to make the private sector spend money on the things that government wants to take money from them from. Don't take money from private sector for education. Let them spend the money directly.
Okay, Mr. I mean, it's interesting you've brought up all these issues, and I want to believe that they are listening, and this will perhaps form some of the major talking points for them in the coming days and perhaps coming months. We'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Kola Ayeye. He's been speaking to us from the United Kingdom. He's an economist and the CEO of GDL Asset Management. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Well, let's head over to Abuja and continue the conversation. Guys.
All right, thank you, Guide. So, gentlemen, you heard the man there, but does his views resonate with you?
Well, I think he's just cataloging the issues and not providing any solution. I have not heard him say he's talking about tax reforms, education, and so forth and so on. But I have not really gotten, the drift where he's going to. Is he talking generally on the policies of government, or how it will impact, or what effect those things will have on our economy? Those are areas I need to be informed.
One of the things he mentioned there is the impact that corruption may have on the activities or lack of it.
Yes, he said he took Botswana as an example to say transparency is the most transparent country in Africa, and that is why their GDP is high and so forth and so on. Nevertheless, the type of corruption we have in Nigeria is not only institutional. The corruption we have in Nigeria, it has permeated all sectors. Now, even a small child, if you send him to go and buy you something, when he comes back, if there is a change, he wants to collect the change. If you don't give him the change, he will stop and say, "Oh God, this is your change." So the corruption is so intense, and it has gone deep.
But you also mentioned it. Sorry, one moment. You also mentioned that concerning the political appointee vis the civil servants when he gets into office.
Yes.
So how do we address it then?
Yeah, the issues there are, there is silent rivalry between a political appointee and the civil servant. So that silent rivalry has always been the impediment. Now, if they understand...
What's responsible for the rivalry?
Well, the fact that this man, the civil servant believes that he has come a long way. He has to pass so many hurdles to come to his position, and that this man just from outside, just within 1 or 2 days, and by fiat, he has been appointed to come and lead him. So he does not believe in that leadership. And because of that leadership crisis, the issues are more compounded when it comes to work. And then he begins to see that perhaps he's the one even teaching the political appointee how to write memos, how to do this, how to, so he begins to underrate and undermine the political appointee to the extent that the political appointee may not even succeed.
Dr. Ikechukwu.
Yeah, no, on the matter of corruption. No, first, the gentleman from London, he hinted at the caliber of people. If you look at, there's a preponderance of persons with a World Bank, Bretton Woods, Western Development Paradigm persons. That's a major scary component of what to expect. If you remember, the NEETS document arose from a comprehensive review of what needs to happen. Part of the fallout was the sale of the National Assembly quarters, the monetization policy, and the whole idea that, look, you can't say you're a minister, you're on a salary of 250,000, and every year we spend 8 million on your rent, and every month we spend close to 2 or 3 million in your maintenance and the rest of it. So take it as a complete package. Let the nation not sweat. That was a PDP government. But subsequently, within still the PDP, you then had that even though monetization had come into place, people were now also being paid. The drivers were laid off. I was in the Ministry of Information. All the drivers were laid off. Official vehicles were sold. In the case of information, Chikelo said they must be sold to the drivers. They are poor. Let them use it and transport themselves and set up businesses. Now, the point I'm leading up to is this. When you have people for whom development is usually index determined, and those indices are from out of your context, you will always be in trouble. Because I ask, let somebody show us between 1985 and today, all the interventions the World Bank and most of the breast institutions have made in any African country. Let's see the success rate. Please show me that it's up to 20%. Tell me about SAP and restructure and the rest of it. And so you then find we're also in debt to many other nations, also from the council that came from there. So that's the matter that has to be taken on its own. So people don't see that as advisors, and they say, Mr. President, you can see that inflation has moved, the medium economic plan, all those things.
All right, so gentlemen, let's
corruption.
also, speaking about the ministries,
Yes.
the ministers, they will come up with, they're expected to come up with key performance KPIs for their ministries and MDAs.
Yeah.
They themselves too will be presenting reports to the president of their performance on a quarterly basis, quarterly basis now.
Yeah.
So, how do you see that playing out?
My concern, actually, is that you cannot access yourself. You can't be bringing out these things. If you remember during Eradua, there was a monitoring and evaluation team that was always, they had people in the ministries who were giving them reports, and they were using such reports with interviews and what have you to evaluate ministers. And so on a quarterly basis, they give a report to the president that this minister has attained so level of performance rating in his ministry. This person has attained so it was on the basis of that Eradua was always, if you are not performing your ministry, he reassigns you to another ministry where he believes you can perform. And so, but if you are the ones to now, give those type of reports, certainly those reports will not be credible because there is no any body supervising that report, and that report may be, certainly done in your favor.
Well, yes and no. KPI, I think if you wait for the quarter, if I'm one of the ministers, what I'll do is that every week I'll have a report of what he did for the week. What did we plan to do for the month of January? Week 1, we did this, but we couldn't finish this. Week 2, by the end of 1 month, you have a clear index. So in a quarter, self-generated, evaluated, that also creates an active management around you. And so by the end of each month, you have your milestones, you have an indication of the lapses. Second month. So the third month, all you have to do is assemble the reports for the 3 months, call a meeting, do a summary of output. Where they're going to have a challenge even in that is that most of the ministries, and it was in 2004 that hit me when I was in one of those ministries, that ministries no longer really understand that their reports should be on their focal assignments, whereby you want to say, okay, for instance, what has the Ministry of Youth and Sport achieved within this period?
All of that has to key into the next level agenda of the party.
Yeah, it has to. And then, so the trajectory becomes clear. You now want to know, what have you achieved? And in the record of what they've achieved, they'll tell you how many people, how leave allowances you are paid, and all that. So there's even a form of reorientation that needs to happen at that level. And that keys into the corruption, the corruption element is a distortion of values. Everything, the expectations are distorted, and that has extended to handling of public funds. So first of all, there's a disconnect between the purpose of which organizations exists and the attitude people adopt towards it. KPIs will help. It will be a training for some of the ministers, because the whole point of being in office, if you're to a patent, is that you're supposed to be part of the leadership chain going forward. Even if you're holding positions, as you grow older, you advise others. KPIs are needed in any forward-looking organization. And if it's to be insisted upon by the government, it's good. Under Jonathan, it was under him that you had the first midterm report. We were involved in preparing it. The fears about, what you call it, incorrect data is real. But you see, it was under Anyim, and he was concerned that, look, if we present incorrect information, we'll assume progress that doesn't exist. And if you notice the ERPG, some of the indices that led to the ERPG, if you look at, for instance, the current government's own self-assessment near the close of the 4 years, you will laugh at some of the claims. So I understand the point he's making, but the point is, start even. We are in a field we are running, or you say you weigh 300 kilograms, we put a scale and decide whether to agree with you or not. But the KPI thing is a good idea.
From your experience, what's your take on that silent rivalry he talked about between the head of the ministry and then the people here?
He's not silent. It's as simple as that. He's not silent. See, the average minister is unfortunate, because you're coming to an institution that exists to sustain itself. The best that can happen, okay, let me cite an example and very quickly get it over with. There was a minister, his essay. It was end of year, and we all needed to go for Christmas. And it was a leave period, so you had allowances, your DTA. The DTA of the minister at that time, far back nearly 20 years ago, was actually a little less than 1 million for about a week or so. And we had the clear, honest, that, look, the funds are not there. The minister said, no. Very, very robust, open-minded fellow. He said, listen, we work as a family here. The PAMSEC is the administrative head, and he has said there's no money. Unfortunately, there was a new DFA posted to the Minister, Director of Finance and Accounts, a lady who came from outside the service. And so she sat in, she was to be introduced to the minister, and she was sitting down while this conversation was going on. So when it was on, she said, sorry, Honorable Minister, PAMSEC, please just indulge me if I may comment. I know we've not been formally introduced and all of that. I said, yes. He said, sir, I'm afraid the money can be found, sir. The minister said, no. I mean, this, with all due respect, madam. He said, please, even if I'm not yet. Anyway, to cut it short, she came back less than 2 hours later. There was 27 million naira in the ministry's coffers. But it's all been farmed out to various agencies, Auditor General, Accountant. This is a Christmas. So there's a system there which when you get too close to it, you're in trouble. That's number one. Number two, like he said, the fellow sees this young man. And also, some of the ministers don't help themselves. You come in strutting about, issuing instructions, sometimes on things you don't know anything about. And it will show lack of even decency and grooming.
Speaking about that, remember statements credited to, I think, the Minister of Interior, where he says, well, I'm not too versed
in this matter.
in this particular matter.
Yes.
So in that context, and then they are supposed to come up with KPIs for the MDAs.
Yeah.
They themselves have their own reports, which they will present to the president on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So if one doesn't meet up with their KPIs for a quarter or two, what kind of actions naturally should follow?
Well, I believe that such indicators, such type of actions, such failures should be, met with some stiff penalty. Now, those penalties could range from either redeployment, because you don't know what you are doing in that ministry.
But Mr. Mo, in politics, if you appoint somebody who you know
cannot,
this is a political appointment,
cannot,
you should be fired.
You can't move him. How do you move him?
You fire him.
You fire him?
Yeah, of course. If he cannot do the job, you appoint him. He can't do the job. If you move him to another ministry, he cannot perform. The next thing is for him to be replaced. That is the options available for if you want performance. However, if you want to appease certain political interest,
but you always have to balance that out.
Sorry, Chamberlain, not by ministerial appointment.
Not by ministerial appointment.
Boards.
Yes.
Put him into a board, he gets a regular
are we saying
allowance?
in this country we don't have ministers who were appointed to appease them for perhaps the roles they might have played?
See, that's where leadership then comes in. Unless you don't want to succeed as a leader. If you do, you have to sit your colleagues down. You say, listen, you are the ones who put me here. I'm not contesting it. But we also need to do well enough for people to take us a second time.
Exactly.
This guy you're sending, it won't work on this thing. But these are the reasons you're sending him. If those reasons can be addressed without him being here, are you comfortable with it? That is leadership. That's negotiation. That's the management of power as it's seen from office. Because you are aborting your tenure when you put an incompetent person in a very visible role. And that's why you should be able to put down your...
For this your question, I want to go for that to tell you what happened actually. When President Umaru Yar'Adua was the president, at that time he was, these KPIs were constant. They kept on coming. They kept on coming in respect of power. As such, the president opened his mouth to say that by December, Nigerians should be expecting 6,000 megawatts improvement. But these were on paper terms, and they were coming, and they were showing progress and showing, confidence that by 6,000 megawatts would be realized. But by December, there was no 6,000 megawatts. And so the president had to apologize to the nation to say, we are sorry, we were giving false reports, and based on that, that's why we took certain actions.
All right, gentlemen, we have to end at this point. We've been speaking with Dr. Oke Ikechukwu, who is the Executive Director, Development Specs Academy, as well as Sanyuma, spokesperson, PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.